Hi there and welcome to another video. My name's Dan Hookham from Component 6, and today in this video we're going to talk about LGAi AI, right? So we're going to talk about AI within government, in particular the LGA sector. As part of this video, we're going to cover why would you worry about AI now? Why do you need to know about these sort of things? What is AI beyond ChatGPT? And what is the difference between AI for personal productivity, process optimization, and strategic change? We're also going to cover off where does AI work really well, where does it not across those three, and what you need to consider when you're thinking about AI in terms of risks for you, your LGA, and the citizens. So what is AI? Well, AI has existed since 1956. It's historically been a mathematical accelerator using compute to be able to do really advanced mathematics. We've used it over the past 20, 30 years for predicting the outcomes of performance on machines, health outcomes for humans. We've done ultrasound comparisons, X-ray comparisons, machinery performance comparisons to allow us to predict what we were doing. Then we started applying it to human language to see if we could detect what people were going to say next. And now we've developed large language models that allow us to interface with those particular AI models on a very dynamic basis. So in this example, where we're using ChatGPT on a mobile phone, it's used AI to interpret what I've typed in the box. It's allowed us to upload a photo, which it's then being able to use object recognition AI to identify what's in the photo. It adds it all into a model, so it has context. So it's converted the picture and the objects into words in a large language model, and now it's combined them all together to give us this particular outcome. So this is a very clever part of it, but if you think about it like this, in the past 3 or 4 years, we've removed the access for people to get access to these AI models that typically were hidden behind data scientists and compute specialists. Now here's another example. This is what we would have thought about of AI as AI. This is how we would have thought of AI pre-ChatGPT. So this is using AI advanced deep learning models and machine learning models to detect what behavior looks like in humans. So we've got whether it's temperature, whether it's movement, whether it's breathing, whether it's biometrics. What do those data patterns indicate? And in this example, they're using the outcomes of those to dictate where a nurse spends their time. So the man at the start of this video struggles to breathe. He comes to hospital. They need to look after him, but they also need to look after everybody else. So they use AI to monitor people on the ward and allow the nurses to proactively attend to people who show irritation, who look like they're hungry, who look like they're in pain. And that allows them to spread themselves more evenly across the entire patient pool. This is how we would have thought about AI historically. Okay. So what are the differences between the three types of AI? Well, personal productivity AI is of course very much about empowering you as an individual. It's about seeing whether you can automate things, create things. Can you do things that little bit quicker by using AI as an assistant for you to help you get those things done? When we jump into process optimization, we're using AI to work as part or do tasks within processes to help you get that process done consistently and at an accelerated pace. When we look at strategic change AI, we're really looking at using AI to rethink how we offer services, how we might engage with people. We're really choosing to change the way that we do things, and that's what we're looking at in the strategic AI perspective. And it's important to differentiate between the three because it allows us to think very much about why you should think differently across those three and the different challenges that exist across those three. Let's think a bit about AI strengths and limits in terms of each type of AI. So when we think about personal productivity, no doubt you've used AI or have tried AI in the context of, can it help me write something? Can it help me generate an idea? Maybe some of you are using automation tools as well to organize things or to do routine tasks. Some of those things it's really, really good at. But some of the limitations that we know about, and one of the key things in here is that you have to give it a lot of context. Otherwise you get really shallow thinking. So it tends to over automate or try and oversimplify the things that you're doing. because it lacks judgment and it has no context of empathy. So you have to think about that when you're considering the usage models for it. From a process optimization perspective, it's really, really good at tasks within a process. We have to really jump from the concept of AI to agentic AI to deal with an entire process. So we know it struggles with poor data. That's a common story. And it struggles with unpredictable human processes, right? So if you understand the process, which is what we talk about, it's a very good thing. If you don't understand that process and it's erratic, it's probably not a good fit. And from a strategic change perspective, it's really, really good at modeling out scenarios, creating forecasts and creating evidence-based planning. But it misses all the nuances that make us human around cultural aspects and local knowledge, and it relies on strong aligned data. So these are the things that we need to consider as we go through the process. So what are the risks of using AI? Well, whichever one you're using, there are risks, right? And one that stands true across all aspects is if we're using large language models, then, for example, there are a lot of untrue truths that are created. The AI does not care about giving you the right answer. It just cares about giving you an answer. So we've got some information on how to deal with that. Ethical decisions. So if you're using AI within process optimization, you want to decide whether you actually want AI to engage with another person. If you want AI to do the analysis for you, how are you balancing those things off? The last two are very much really, if we're looking at process optimization, do you understand how that process really works? Because if there's any ambiguity, like we've talked about, AI doesn't handle it too well in terms of the processes. Right? Really good ambiguity in an existing very clear process, but outside where the process is ambiguous, it really doesn't know. So understanding that process is really very valuable. And you also need to understand what are the implications of it going wrong. So if you're engaging with people and you're giving them information about things, if it gives the wrong information, what's that impact right there? So we really need to think about that. Then more broadly, each one of your LGAs is subject to the Australian privacy principles around the Privacy Act, which means that you are asked to keep Australian citizen data within Australia and protected. You really need to think about which tools enable you to do that sort of thing. So there's LGA reputation and your personal brand as well. So when we think about LGA reputation and your personal brand, they're very hard earned, right? Your counsellors do an amazing job of engaging with citizens, supporting the reputation of your LGA and providing that representation. It doesn't take much to break that sort of thing, so you need to manage those sorts of aspects. From a personal perspective, you truly want to understand about who you want to be. So when you're choosing how you use AI, make sure you do it and align to the way that you would have done that work previously, the way that you want to engage, the fact that you check it twice, the fact that you use sources that you can support, right? A whole range of things that are good representations of you as a person. We're trying to accelerate the good. That's what we don't want to accelerate the bad. So let's talk about how we make sure that you're protected. If you're using LGA data or citizen data, keep it in tools that are administered by your LGA. And what that means is if you're using data that relates to what you're under contract for or what the LGA is under contract for, you need to make sure that that data remains in a place whereby you can administer and control it, right? For you guys who are using M365 and Microsoft tools, that AI tool for you is Copilot, right? So within Copilot, you can securely use any of the same data that you do within Outlook, Teams, OneDrive, and a range of other things. But if you're using public data, feel free to use any tool that's out there. Remember, if you're automating a process, make sure to keep a human in the loop. One of the reasons that we do this is because it removes the risk of the AI doing something without having any accountability. So you can have that accountability still, manage that particular risk. Please remember that AI doesn't care about being right. Right? It just wants to give you an answer. So check before you finalize anything and before you accept it as the end answer. And in that same context, please always argue with the AI. And if you have any doubt, ask for proof and reasoning. Don't accept the first answer, and always again check those answers as you go through. And these things will help you manage your risk. Well, that's it from me for this video. So please do feel free to contact us on and on the contacts that we have here. Please feel free to jump into our local government site on www.component6.com/local-government, local-government, and please feel free to contact us and talk through how you're using AI. That we're really, really interested. Thank you for taking the time.